What is the word for that ink which is applied on the finger when you go and vote? Okay. Do you know about that? There is an ink which is applied on your finger when you go and vote.
Yes, sir.
Electrolink.
There is a specific word, Darshan, for it. Acha, the word for that is indelible ink. INDELIBLE, ink. In Gujarati, the word is avilopya shahi. It's something which cannot be erased. Okay, what is the word for okay? What is the full form of MLA?
Member of Legislative Assembly.
Okay, what is the
Member
full
of
form
Legislative Assembly.
of what is the full form of MP?
Member of
Member
Parliament.
of
Minister of
Parliament.
Parliament.
Okay, and now what
Member
is
of
the
Parliament.
word for the election in which we indirectly select the prime minister of the country?
Lok Sabha election.
So what is the English word for that, Dev? The Lok Sabha election. What is the word for that? Come on. Okay, the word for that is general election. Okay, the word is general election. Okay, what is the word for this election in which we indirectly select the chief minister of the state?
Rajya Sabha.
ના રાજ્યસભામાં તો આપણો હાથ જ નથી હોતો. We don't. I'm talking about that state level election. जैसे कि recently there were elections in Bihar.
Vidhan Sabha election.
But what is the English word for that? How many of you are going to vote next time, or how many of you have already voted once? Is there anyone?
Legislative Assembly.
Legislative Assembly alag che thodu.
Assembly elections.
Assembly elections, yes. The word is assembly elections. Okay. Any change done in the constitution, what is the word for that?
Amendment.
Amendment. Okay. AMEND. Amendment. Amendment is badlav or change in constitution. So far around 100 amendments have been done, more than 100 actually. So that's the thing. Okay, what is the word for this in which there are no elections and one person is the ruler? There are no elections.
Dictatorship.
Monarchy is monarchy is dictatorship.
Dictator.
Acha, what is another word for dictatorship? What is another word for dictatorship? The way we have democracy, when one person, like in
Despotism.
Despotism, I am not sure about this. Maybe I can check. The word I know for this is autocracy. Okay, autocrats. The word, for example, Hitler was an autocrat. Kim Jong is an autocrat. Okay, so autocracy. And similarly, we have a word called monarchy, where the king's rule is there. And then we have democracy like India or USA, the USA. So they are known as the democratic countries. Okay, fine. So can somebody tell all the words we have discussed today? We discussed around 7-8 words. Come on, someone.
Amendment.
Amendment. Amendment, Darshan, what is it?
Sir, the changes or reforms that are made in the constitution
Constitution,
or the
yes.
betterment of law and order.
Yes, yes. Then
So indelible ink.
indelible ink. Okay,
Ink
good.
used
Then
for voting. Ink used in voting.
okay, then
General election.
general election. Then
Election.
assembly election.
Assembly election.
Democracy.
Okay. So now soon there'll be assembly election in West Bengal.
West Bengal. Yes.
Yes. Next,
Autocracy.
autocracy and
Monarchy.
monarchy. What is another word for monarchy?
King's rule or dictatorship.
King's rule. Yes. And any other example? Any other word?
MLA.
MLA. Okay, that was a full form I asked. Member of Legislative Assembly.
Member of Parliament.
Member of
MP.
Parliament. And constituency. What is it?
Chunav Kshetra.
Yes, Chunav Kshetra. Okay, for example, Rahul Gandhi is from Wayanad. That is his Chunav Kshetra. Okay, so these were the words. Now, definitely there can be many more words related to politics, but we'll keep it a norm that every time we'll start a class with, we'll pick up an area and we'll discuss the words related to that. That's an effective way to learn vocabulary. Instead of learning scattered words, it's good to learn the words in cluster. Okay, so I hope you put those words into practice and use and then enrich your language, benefit from it. Okay, from in today's session we are going to take our discussion further what we started in the last class. Can somebody quickly give a recap of the last session? Anyone? क्या सीखे थे हम last class में?
Words to describe people or place.
Words to describe people or place, and there are words which are used to talk about people especially, and those words are known as personality traits. Okay, and I think we discussed around 30, more than 30 personality traits, the various words we can use to talk about someone's personality. For example, for Ziddi, which word did we discuss?
Stubborn.
Stubborn, obstinate. Okay, similarly perseverant. We have discussed economic, I mean the person by nature. Then gutsy. Okay, a mercurial nature. So these were the words we discussed in the last class. Make sure you keep revising what we have learned, otherwise it's the brain's tendency to forget. બરાબર અને પછી I mean it won't serve any purpose spending 2 hours here. So revise karta raho and make sure you take notes when you are here in the class. Okay, ठीक है. So we are going to move to the next language function now. That will be from unit number 2. So far we have discussed, you have all done an online course related to the language functions, greeting and everything. In the last class, we discussed how to describe people, place, and things. In today's session, we are going to learn how to give and take advice. Okay, and in the next class, that is 11:20 onwards, we will have practice of listening skills, something which we started in the last class. How to be a good listener. We discussed the fundamentals, the basics, and now we are going to take the discussion further in the next session. Okay, so asking and giving advice. Okay, so let's begin. Acha, first of all, what is the difference between ADVICE, ADVISE? Can someone tell?
Sir, ADVISE is, I think, a verb, the act of giving someone an advice. ADVICE.
Okay.
Sir, ADVICE is the main word, a piece of suggestion, and ADVISE is the act of advising.
Good. True enough. Okay, so advice, when you say that's a noun. Okay, for example, I received a lot of advice from my parents, or so many advice from my parents. So there it's a noun. Okay, and when it's an act of doing that, barabar, you are advising someone for something. So that when it's an act, a verb, then you use se. Okay, so that's the difference. Fine, so let's begin this asking and giving advice. So first of all, what we can do is we can discuss some phrases, some expressions which can be used when you are asking or taking advice. Okay, ઇંગ્લિશમાં એવું કહેવામાં આવે છે, એક કહેવત છે કે never give your advice to someone who doesn't seek it. What does that mean?
Until you are asked for an advice, don't give it on your own.
Okay. Yes, true. You shouldn't give an advice if you are not asked to. But that's human nature, to help each other, advise each other. Even though people just wish to share their problems, we start giving advice. Okay, that's human nature. So we cannot do much about it, but of course we can take care of the language part. Okay, when we want to advise something with emphasis, sometimes we just wish to give a casual advice, so there is a different structure used for it. So the language of asking and taking advice. Okay, so let's watch a video related to it. Short video, but in that the person gives a good demonstration of what phrases or what words should be used when you wish to get advice to someone. Before that, let me share a few phrases with you. Ek baar dekh lo. Well, also read all the phrases one by one. Okay. Acha, before we actually go to that slide, would you like to tell me a few phrases which you can use to give advice to someone? Come on.
Saying it would be better if you do it in that way.
Okay, it would be better. So that's a way to tell. True.
What do you think I should do?
That you are asking for the advice. Okay, what do you think I should do? Good.
I suggest you to do this.
That sounds good. This sounds good. I suggest you to. I suggest you to, or you should. Let's write this down. Okay, let's make a list of this. So someone said that you should. Okay, I would suggest you to. That second one. Any other phrase you would like to suggest?
What do you advise me to do?
Okay, here you're asking for the advice. Okay, good.
Yeah.
How about giving advice?
My opinion, you should prefer this to that.
Okay, you should prefer. Good. You should prefer.
What would you recommend?
That's a good way to ask. Anna, what do you recommend? That's good. What do you recommend?
Would you please help?
So
I have an idea for this.
Okay, I have an idea for this. That sounds good.
If I were you, I would do this.
It would be better if you.
It would be better if you. This.
I'm at loss to know what to do. What do you think?
Okay. It would be
If
better.
I were you, I would do this. If I were you.
If I were you. Okay. હું તારી જગ્યાએ હોત. So this also sounds good.
Would you please?
Would you please? Now that would be a direct way to say, but you can. Yes. Would you please?
Have you got any ideas?
Okay. Have you got any idea? Yes, that. So here you are asking for an advice. Okay.
According to my opinion,
it would be more correct if.
In my opinion, simple. Okay. In my opinion, can you give an example of this? In my opinion.
yeah, in my opinion, that at least you should prefer this to that.
Yes, or in my opinion, you should start reading magazines to keep yourself updated with the latest information. Okay. In my opinion, you should reduce your screen time. Okay. So this is how we put it. So there are so many ways to give advice and even ask for advice. Okay. So घना बधा छे phrases. Next time, perhaps when we are talking and it's related to this asking and giving advice, we shouldn't stick to that one way of asking for it or giving advice that you should change it. Have variety in your language. Okay. I'm going to first show you the video. That is a good demonstration of asking and giving advice. Okay. Are you able to see the video screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Let us start. Make sure when you are watching this video, you note down the phrases the person is recommending. Okay, let's begin.
You should learn how to whistle.
Are you able to get the audio?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Advice. I just gave you some advice. Let's go. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Top Words. My name is Alicia, and today we're going to be talking about 10 ways to give advice. So let's get started. I think you should. The first expression is, I think you should, blah, blah, blah. I think you should is a very neutral, not so strong, not so weak way to give advice. I think you should get a different haircut. I think you should find a new job. I think you should give me all your money. Well, can't hurt. I think you should is a very typical way to give advice, or just I think is okay, or you should is okay too. In this sentence, I think you should find a new apartment. Why don't you? The second expression is why don't you, blah, blah, blah. So it uses the negative, why don't you? So that means it's a bit softer, it's a bit more of a weak way to give advice. So why don't you take a day off? Or why don't you help me with my homework? That's sort of a sneaky way to give advice and ask for help at the same time. Why don't you, I don't know, find a new hobby, for example? So these are kind of weak ways to give advice. In this sentence, why don't you get a pet? Have you thought about blah, blah, blah? So have you thought about, you're giving your advice, but this is a question for the listener. So have you thought about blah, blah, blah? You're sharing your opinion, but you're kind of making it sound like maybe it was the listener's idea, or maybe the listener has thought of this thing before. So this is also a fairly soft way to give advice. So like, have you thought about going to a different city? Have you thought about moving in with your friends? Something like that. So these are probably going to be questions that are a little bit more serious. Like, I don't feel like we would use this for really casual or really light questions, but maybe for something a little more serious and a soft way to give advice. In this sentence, have you thought about looking for a new job? I don't know if is a good idea. So this is kind of a negative way to give advice or to share your opinion. It's, I don't know if blah, blah, blah is a good idea. So you're giving someone advice not to do something. So for example, I don't know if getting a pet is a good idea, or I don't know if Starting a new project is a good idea. These are different ways that you can say you don't think or you think that the other person should not do something, but this is a soft way to express it. In this sentence, I don't know if taking a year off work is a good idea. Maybe you should try. The next one is a suggestion to try something. So this is a soft but kind of encouraging expression. Maybe you should try blah, blah, blah. Maybe you should try blah, blah. So you are encouraging someone to attempt something, to try something. Maybe not forever, but just for a short period of time. So maybe you should try volleyball. Maybe you should try playing sports. Maybe you should try spicy food. Maybe you should try something. So it's encouragement to do something new. This is kind of positive, but it's a fairly soft way to give your advice. Here, maybe you should try studying a new skill. I wouldn't, blah, blah, blah. So again, we have this negative, I wouldn't, I would not, meaning, and I think we'll talk about this later, in my case, if this were my decision, I would not blah, blah, blah. So for example, I wouldn't buy a new car if I were unemployed. I wouldn't eat spicy food if my stomach were very sensitive, for example. In this case, I wouldn't worry too much about it. If I were you, I would. If I were you, I would. So in the previous expression, we used the negative, I wouldn't. But in this expression, we have the positive. If I were you, I would, blah, blah, blah. So if I were you, which I'm not, but if I were you, this is what I would do. So this is my recommendation. So if I were you, I would study every day. If I were you, I would try to get enough sleep. If I were you, I would cook dinner every day. In this sentence, if I were you, I would look for a new car. Have you tried? The next expression, this is very similar to have you thought about, blah, blah, blah. So again, it's a question for the listener and it's a suggestion for the listener, kind of soft advice. So have you tried, blah, blah, blah. Have you tried something? So this is something you can use to make a suggestion that people should try. So have you tried wearing glasses? Have you tried getting contacts? Have you tried talking to your boss? Oh, actually, that's a sentence. Yeah. Have you tried talking to your boss about the problem? It's a small encouragement in that way. My advice is to blah, blah, blah. So this one is a very clear advice statement. My advice is to something. So is to, and then there's some action you recommend for the listener. So my advice is to stop eating sweets. My advice is to take a trip or take a vacation. My advice is to get a dog. Here we are with the dogs again. I don't know. In this sentence, my advice is to get some sleep. So this is just a very clear, very simple advice phrase. You ought to. The next expression is you ought to. You ought to. So ought to means should. But ought to, it sounds more formal, more polite. It's not used as commonly as others. But actually, we use the contracted form, oughta. So ought to, just like want to, can be contracted to oughta. So you oughta, blah, blah, blah. You should do something. So you ought to give your new coworkers a try. They're nice. Or you ought to get a new car. You ought to get a new haircut. You ought to go on a diet, for example. So this one is not used quite as often as the other expressions, but you may hear it from time to time. It sounds more formal, sounds more polite. In most cases, you should is perfectly fine, but you might hear you ought to or you oughta. In this sentence, you ought to think about your goals for the future. That's the end. Okay, so those are 10 ways that you can give advice to people. If there's a different way that you have tried to give advice, or if you have any questions about how to give advice, please be sure to leave us a comment and let us know about it. Thanks very much for watching this video, and if you liked it, please be...
Okay. Got some idea now?
Yes.
Okay, so we have got so many ways to get advice. Okay, Gia, can you suggest me one now? What phrase should I use?
Have you thought about?
Have you thought about? Can you put it in a sentence?
Have you thought about shifting to a new place?
No, I haven't. Thank you. Kanak Tripathi.
Yes, sir.
Yes, can you?
If I were you, I would look for a new job.
Okay, as of now, I'm happy with my job, so I won't. But okay, good advice. Prithuraj, yes. Okay, Tanvi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Can you suggest me one way now?
I think you should prefer to coffee than tea.
Okay, I love tea and coffee both. Okay, okay. Okay, then if I were
So can I
you,
try one?
yes, Kanak, yes.
My advice is to not worry too much about every small thing.
Exactly. My advice is okay. So that's a very clear way to tell something. Okay. કે હું સ્પષ્ટપણે તને કહેવા માંગુ છું બરાબર that's the way we say it in Gujarati બરાબર જો ચોખ્ખી વાત કરું no that's how we speak in Gujarati so in English we say that my advice is very clear okay then if I want to be indirect in that what expression should I use?
I think you should.
I think you should.
I
Any other
don't
way?
know. I don't know if watching a movie is a good idea.
Okay. Tamara, actually, you want to say that this perhaps won't help much. Okay.
If I were you, I would have.
So you can put yourself in the situation and then say that if I were you, I would not have taken admission there. That's how you say that. Okay. So if someone asks you that, should I get admission in this particular institute or college? Then you will say that if I were you, I wouldn't have gone for that institute. So indirectly, you're telling that you should not. Okay. Darshan, can you suggest me?
Yes, sir. Sir, for example, if we want to be firm while giving advice, we can say that your only option is to keep on studying right now.
Very
For
good.
example.
I mean, this is something new Darshan has suggested. You can also say that your only option left here, or you must. If you want to emphasize, then you can say that you must. Should is a softer version of giving advice. Must, I mean, you are emphasizing on the thing. Okay. You must immediately leave the place. So that's how you give advice, strong advice. Then others, come on, Shelin.
Maybe you should try this new dress.
Maybe you should. So, yeah, no, I mean, that's again a softer way to tell something. Okay, maybe you should. Okay, that's one more. Good.
Sir?
Any other? Yes.
Don't you think it would be better? Don't you think meditation would be better for calming your mind?
Yes. Don't you think? So you are leaving the onus on the listener.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't you think? Yes.
The people the I'm giving them their choice, but
exactly. I said percent agree. Yes. Don't you think you should no? So you're telling them, and again, no, that's a good way of convincing someone for something. Okay. Don't you think that you should talk to them? Okay. Or don't you think you should get adequate sleep?
If you ask me, this black dress suits more on you.
બરાબર આમ તો વણ માંગી એડવાઇસ તમે આપો છો પણ will say that if you ask me, this is what I say. Okay, good. Dhey?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you raise your hand.
Sir, I wouldn't recommend you to go outside while it is raining.
I wouldn't recommend you. Okay, so there are two ways in which in negative construction you can give advice. Number one is I don't know if, and second is I wouldn't advise you. Okay, so that's, and already before we actually watched this video, you people had already given wonderful suggestions. You said that you should, another you said that I would suggest you to, I should, you should prefer. You also said that I have an idea for this. You said that it would be better if I were you. In my opinion, I'll suggest you to. You know, there are more than 20 different ways to get advice to someone. Barabar? So let us not just say you should, you should, you should. Change the construction. Use a variety in your phrases.
Sir,
Okay.
I had a doubt, sir.
Yes, Sin, please.
Yes, when we are using strong advice, sometimes does it become less convincing to the other person
Can
because
you?
we do not know much about their lives. So when we are giving strong advice, does it come as less convincing?
Okay, okay. Now, actually, શું છે, saying giving advice is a bit a sensitive matter. Most of the time, people just wish to share their problem. Now, I've read a bit about this psychology about this, that when people share their problems with you, most of the time, what they expect you to is just listen to them. Okay, they don't seek any advice or suggestion. Barabar. So that's the first thing. Still, if someone actually asks for an advice, okay, then again it depends on the kind of relationship you are sharing with the person. For example, if my colleague in my department asks for an advice, I can't be so strong in no telling that thing, because here I'm sharing a professional relationship with person. It's formal. Okay, but when I'm talking to a person who is my close friend, really close friend, then I can say something with emphasis. You must. Okay, I can emphasize that. For example, recently a friend of mine said that he is 35 already and he has two children. So he told that I want to go to the UK. And that was a very impulsive decision I found. So I told them that, have you given it a second thought? You must not even think about it. Your kids here, what about their future? Now I can be strong in my advice here because he is my close friend. I cannot say the same thing to anyone else. Okay, so it all depends on the kind of relationship you are sharing with the person. And in first place, people don't like to get advice. Okay, they just want people to listen to them, just understand my situation. That's what we humans I mean want people to do. I'll share an article related to that if you wish. Okay, the psychology of this, what do we
Surely,
expect?
sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
And sir, but most of the time we do not know what the situation of the other person truly is. So wouldn't it be sometimes wrong to give them advice?
That's why it would
In
be a good
this,
idea to keep it in the weak form. Okay,
yes,
if
sir,
I were
I
you,
agree.
okay, if I were you, okay, have you given this try? Okay, so that's indirect way of telling them that आपने ये try किया, ये, I think this will work. Okay, or people sometimes also say that my unsolicited advice here is, unsolicited means
Not compulsory to follow.
actually unsolicited means you haven't asked for it, but I'm telling you. Okay, my unsolicited advice here is, so you're telling them कि आपने सलाह नहीं मांगी लेकिन मैं बोल रहा हूं आपको. That's it. Okay, fine. Okay, now it's time to put into practice what we have discussed just now. Okay, are you able to see the presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, these are a few phrases. Can someone please read all of them one by one? आराम से. Tanvi, will you give it a try?
Yes, sir. I think, or I really, you need to. Then how about is also a kind of advice.
How about
Then it is usually a good idea too. It's also a kind of advice. My suggestion, it's a kind of we can say not a clear in order kind of advice, that it's my suggestion, and it is not compulsory that you need to follow it. Then why don't you? Then you could try. It's a kind of option. In beside that,
yes,
you
yes, yes.
probably or definitely really you should.
So here it's a strong way of saying you really should.
Yeah.
Okay, but again it sounds like a neutral way of telling you. Okay, then
Have you tried that? Have you tried that? So it's a kind of second option, we can say. I would strongly suggest or advise that.
Or I strongly advise that, or I strongly suggest that. Then
If I was or were you, I would do this instead of that, we can say.
Then
In my experience, works really well. Someone has already experienced it, and so according to his or her experience, he is giving an advice to someone on the basis of that. I really think you need to or you should. Then it's generally best or a good idea to do this. Then one idea is two. When in similarly, it is a kind of second option, we can say. Then one idea is to do this, or second maybe yours. One thing you could or you should do is, then the best or the most important thing to do is to, then if I was or I were in your place, I would do. It's also a kind of in my experience, it really works well. It is similar to that. My main or personal recommendation would be, it would be his or her opinion, we can say something just like that. In this kind of situation, I would always recommend you or advise. It is also a kind of, we can say, a strong advice. Then in this kind of situation, I recommend this. I would always recommend this. This always gives a kind of a strong type of a suggestion.
Okay, so a few more phrases now. Okay, now let's put them into practice. This is the situation for you. Give advice to a friend who wants to lose some weight. Need to suggest me 5 ways in which you can give advice in this situation, but all the 5 ways should be different. You need to use 5 different phrases, 5 different styles of giving suggestion. Whosoever is ready, please let me know. There shouldn't be any repetition. Take a minute or so. Be ready with some concrete points. Okay, and have variety in that. Okay, you can talk about diet, you can talk about exercise, you can talk about other things too. Avoid repetition of phrases and repetition of ideas, both should be avoided.
So may I try?
Yes, just give a minute to everyone, let them prepare, and then we can give it a try. Even if you don't speak, at least think what phrases, what words can be used. Yes, Darshan, tell me 3 ways.
Sir, we can say Sir, we can say that you must start by increasing the fiber content of your diet.
Okay, so you must start. Okay, then
Then, sir, we can also say that the best way possible would be to start burning up the calories.
Start burning up the calories. Okay. Then suggest me
If
one more.
I were you, if
Okay. Okay. Let Darshan complete. Kanak, I'll get back to you in a while. Darshan, third way.
yes, sir.
Second thing, for third, we can say that why don't you start going for for gymming activities?
Okay. Okay. And Darshan, how does this sound? Uh, okay. The one way to tell this is, I don't know if keto diet can help you, or in my opinion, you should try keto diet. Does anyone know about it? Keto diet?
Yes, sir, but some of the doctors don't advise keto diets.
But there
So
are
it's
people who have benefited from it. Okay.
yes, sir, there are entire communities for that.
Okay. Okay. So, in my opinion, you should give a try to the keto diet. That's how you can put it. Darsh Kumar, yes. Can you suggest me one way? Yeah.
I think you should eat healthy and stop eating this junk food.
I think you should eat healthy stuff and stop eating the junk food. Yes. Shalin, yes. Yes, Shalin.
Sir, can I?
Shalin, raise hand. But okay, fine. Kanak, yes, please.
Uh, have you thought about any? Have you thought about for any professional advice?
Okay. Have you thought about taking professional advice or consulting a dietitian? Okay. Have
And
you
sir,
thought
one
about?
more.
Yes.
If I were you, then I would prefer a healthy and a balanced diet.
Okay. So if I were you, the first thing I would take care of is diet. Okay. It has been said that almost 40% of the role in weight loss is your diet. People say just go and do workout, that would be enough. But if it's not accompanied with appropriate diet, proper diet, then it doesn't help much. My personal experience too. Others, come on. What do you suggest, Mandar?
Sir, it would be better if you start jogging in early morning.
Yes, it would be better if you start jogging first.
Sir, I have
Okay.
one more.
Yes, please.
If you are not satisfied with your weight loss results, you should try getting a professional advice.
Oh, that sounds good. Yes. So maybe if if you do not get good results, if you're after initial attempt, in my opinion, you should consult a dietitian. Oh, that sounds good.
Furthermore, you can
It
try to
is
ride a bicycle or at least run a mile.
Okay. Do you know there is something called brisk walking? Brisk walking. Do you know the concept of brisk walking?
Yes, sir.
yes, sir.
So it's like speed between walking and running. It's like running. Walking as fast as you can. That is also considered to be a good exercise. I think, in my opinion, you should start brisk walking. Okay.
It is
Any other
also
way?
advisable. It is also
And
advisable
strong.
to.
Yes.
It is also
It is
advisable to eat healthy meals and meals that are low in calorie.
low in calorie. Okay. And have you given a try to the micro meals? There is a new concept like this, micro meals. So instead of having two full meals, you should have micro meals at the interval of 2 hours, 3 hours. That's
Yes,
again.
sir.
Actually, it is advised to have it is advisable to have 4 meals per day, and one is breakfast, and there should be an interval of 4 hours between each meal. So breakfast, after that 4 hours, after 4 hours lunch, and after 4 hours
Lunch.
an evening meal that could be any salad, and after that after interval of 4 hours, then dinner. That's how I follow.
Yes, actually different concepts recommend different style of fasting and dieting. For example, recently I was reading about intermittent fasting. Do you know about that? Intermittent fasting?
No, sir.
There they advise you that so you decide the time that in like every day out of those 24 hours, you will fast for, let's say, 12 hours straight. So for those 12 hours, except water or any other liquid, you don't have anything else. Okay. And there are people who observe this fast for 16 hours. So for those 16 hours, they won't have anything except water. And so whatever they consume, whatever they eat especially, that would be in that remaining 8 hours only. So that this new concept called intermittent fasting. I think you should give a try to intermittent fasting. That's how I will put it.
In my opinion, celebrate things with a non-food activity like take a walk or go to the movies.
Oh yes, that can be also said. Now here you must have observed two things. Number one, when you want to give advice, number one, you need to have good language. Okay, and number two, you need to have good knowledge of the things also. Am I right, Kanak?
Yes, sir.
I cannot advise someone about weight loss if I don't know much about keto diet, intermittent fasting, okay, or I don't know much about the researches related to that. So it would be a good thing to be well versed and knowledgeable about things before you give advice to someone about it. तो पहले तो advice तभी दो when you have like no strong background of that. Otherwise, just listen to the person. That would be enough. Okay, that would be a good strategy. Just listen to that person well. And second is, yes, if you are knowledgeable enough on that topic, then give strong advice backed by facts and data. Barabar? So you can say that there is a research by this Harvard University which says that, or I read a magazine article in which I found that. So that would be a good way to support your advice. So you're not just saying something out there in the air, you're supporting with something concrete. तो ये भी एक चीज ध्यान में रखो, apart from language, if possible, back your advice with some proof, some evidence, something solid, something concrete, and listen to the person well. That is the first thing you should do. Don't jump on giving advice immediately, impulsive advice. पहले सुन लो अच्छे से. Listen to the person appropriately, properly, completely, then talk. Got it?
Sir, I had a doubt.
Yes, Darshan.
Sir, sometimes can commands be used as advices, very strong and determined advices?
Can you give an example?
Like, for example, stop beating yourself and start working on it.
Yes, you can. I mean, see, sometimes when I recently went with my friend who is diabetic, અને બહુ નાની ઉંમરમાં, he's just 35. And when he recently consulted his doctor, I was with him. So the doctor was very straight, and what do you say? You may sound his words rude, but he was very straight when he was telling the things. Instead of just saying you should or no, તમારે આવું કરવું જોઈએ ના, he was very straight. આ નથી જ કરવાનું. બરાબર? So it all depends on your relationship with the person. So the doctor can be straight here. Your teacher sometimes, your guide sometimes can be straight with you when telling certain things. But it depends on the relationship you're sharing with the person. Okay, so if it's a very good strong relationship you're sharing with the person, you can be straight in your advice that you must. So there you can use the word must. Otherwise you need to be little diplomatic and indirect in giving advice. So you need to keep in mind or consider this. But like when you learn language functions like this, today we learned this asking and giving advice. The last class we learned how to describe people, place, and things. Overall, by learning this, each language function, we are enriching the language. Okay, so it's time for a break now. We'll have a break of 10 minutes. I'll create a new link for the next class. So join the next class with the new link only. That clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So
Sir, should we write present, sir?
yes.